Hey guys, it's Dana and it's time to talk about money. And in this video, I want to talk about tipping in the United States. How much do you tip? When do you tip? So let's talk about that. In the United States, we have a tipping culture that is unusual to other places of the world. We tip. And if you don't tip when you go to certain places, it is considered highly rude, and actually can impact the level of service that you get if, word gets around town that you don't tip. However you feel about that, obviously, if wages were higher, it would be great if employees didn't have to rely so heavily on tips for their livelihood, but many do. A lot of times tips are a big part of the money that people earn, and that's how they eat, how they pay rent, and it's really important to them. And also, in my personal opinion, I just think that when you have a generous spirit, when you tip and when you tip well, it makes you a more attractive person. It makes you more compassionate, just kinder. And when you don't tip well, say for example, if you get really bad service, we'll just start with that. If you get bad service, your waiter or waitress is really grumpy, really slow, or your food comes out cold at a restaurant. Restaurants is one of the places usually you tip. You might think, I'm not going to tip them, or I'm just going to leave a penny, right? Something, or $1. I'm not going to tip them very much, that they know that they did bad service and I wasn't happy with how they were, with the level of service that they provided. It actually reflects more on you than it does on them, in my opinion, and it makes you kind of look like an ugly person. Because you never know the situation. I feel like in that case, you might want to just tip 10% perhaps, but still tip something, because as I said, it's reflective of your spirit, something within you, not necessarily of your server when you don't tip at all. Maybe they've had a really bad day. You don't know what's going on with them. Maybe there's only 2 servers in that restaurant and usually there is 7. Maybe a bunch of people called out and they're working really hard and you never know what their story is. Everybody's got a story and you don't know what is going on with them. So like I said, I think it's something that is reflective of you rather than your server when you don't tip at all. And so I think that if you are going out to a restaurant, then you should have money to tip. It should be part of your budget, at least in the United States. If you're going out to eat, then you should make sure you have enough money, and I highly suggest always tipping with cash. I think having cash on hand in your wallet is really important, smaller bills that you can tip, and you need to have that as part of your budget before you even step into that restaurant. If you don't have enough money to pay for the tip when you go out, then you probably shouldn't go out at all in the first place. You should have that money to tip as part of the budget that you have set for your outing, right? Now, a typical amount for a tip is 15 to 20%, or maybe even 25%. That's a typical amount for a tip. All right, so these are our rules. If we have really bad service, it's 10%. If it's average service, then we give 15% or $5, whichever is more. And if it's good service, then we do 20% or $10, whichever is more. And if it's exceptional service, then we would do 25% or $20, $25, again, whichever is more. So if if you are buying or paying for something with a really low balance, then I still think it's important to tip if there is some kind of service involved, right? So at least $5. When you go to and stay at a hotel, you have housekeeping as part of that hotel stay. And so $5, speaking of $5 or $10 a day is usually what we will tip or leave in the room. So it's important to remember that. So that's another area to tip is your housekeeping at a hotel. If you get your hair done, you have a hairdresser, usually it's 15% tip for the hairdresser. If there's somebody separate who shampoos your hair, $5 for that person. They also deserve a tip, in my opinion. If you're getting your nails done, which I've never done except once in my life, that person also 15%. Valet, if someone is parking your car, then they would get a tip. If you have something delivered, so moving men or moving women, not to discriminate, they would get a tip. Somebody moving heavy furniture for you. I mean, that's tough work. So that also, I think, is tip worthy. Takeout. If you order curbside delivery or takeout, this is a really kind of gray area, and I haven't done this very many times in my life, but I have heard from servers that they would appreciate a tip because it takes time away from their time to pack up the food and then to bring it out to your car. And maybe they'll go over the receipt with you to make sure you got all the items that you ordered. So they would get a 15% tip. Even though they're not technically servers, at least a 10% tip. Let me know down in the comments what you think about that, takeout or curbside delivery. I do think that they're looking for tips and they would really appreciate it. Tip jars at coffee shops. I don't think that it's necessary to put money in a tip jar at a coffee shop unless you go there regularly. If you go to that coffee shop every single morning or once a week and you get to know the people who are working there, then I think putting $1 into the tip jar is a really good idea because you're a regular there. And they're serving you your coffee, and they probably might even know your name, like you're on Cheers, if you know what that means. So I think that would be it would be good to do it if you go there often. But if you just are one time in there and that's it, then I would say nah. Okay, now let's talk about your pizza delivery person. So if you follow Dave Ramsey, like I do, Dave Ramsey and the Total Money Makeover, the baby steps, getting out of debt, if you order a pizza and the delivery person comes to the door and this is like the unspoken rule or spoken rule. If you ask your delivery person how they're doing, which by the way, I always think you should ask service professionals how they're doing. I think some people just don't even bother to ask. I can't believe how rude some people are to service personnel. Anyway, that's a side note. If you ask them how they're doing and they respond with better than I deserve, then you should leave them as much of a tip as you can because that is the code word for that they are working that job to pay off debt. They're trying to get out of debt and they're delivering pizzas to make extra money. It's probably their side hustle. So if somebody responds with better than I deserve and you are in a position to leave them a tip, which I assume you are if you're ordering pizza delivery or if you are in a restaurant even, then you leave a tip for that person, an extra big tip if you can, to help them to pay off their debt. Okay, so if we take it back to the beginning and we talk about what a gratuity or a tip even is, it is by definition, it's a bonus for exceptional service, correct? So I just think that tipping is a wonderful thing to do to honor, to show your gratitude to those who are serving you. And like I said before, if it's bad service, I still think you should leave a tip because, I don't know, I just feel like it's the right thing to do. And your children may be watching you. I just think it's good to have a generous heart, a generous spirit. And I think it does something to your soul. And like I said, if your children are there watching you, which your kids, we've got 4 kids. They're pretty much always watching what you are doing. Your actions speak so much louder than your words. You might tell them to be good people, be kind, be generous, but they're watching you to see what you are actually doing. So like I said, even bad service, I think it's good to be compassionate and be generous and leave some kind of tip, even if it's just 10%. And in closing, again, if you are not in a position to leave a tip, then you probably shouldn't be going out to that establishment in the first place. Correct? All right, you guys, that is it for this video. Be sure to subscribe. If it's your first time here, I'm here every single Tuesday talking all about money. And leave a comment below letting me know what you tip, how much, what percentage, and also what your thoughts are about takeout. Do you tip for takeout or curbside delivery? And your Uber drivers and Lyft drivers, I think you should tip them as well if I didn't say so already. But how much do you tip them? Just a flat rate or a percentage? Let me know what your thoughts are on tipping.